Welcome to High Ground. My name is Tanner, and today we are talking about the roster changes for Rainbow Six Siege's North American League going into stage number 3 of the 2022 season. So we saw stage 1, we saw stage 2, and stage 3 is coming up in, I believe it's 2 weeks from tomorrow, so pretty soon. And in the roster change window, the transfer window closes on the 4th, I think, so in less than a week. And so we'll know all of this stuff coming up in, well, within the week, but for now, some of it is still speculative, so let's talk about what is, what isn't, what has happened, what has yet to come. Okay, so what are we looking at in particular? We have the 10 NAL teams. They are ordered by how well they placed in stage number 2. Over here, we have the total number of points they've accrued in the 2022 season, so this is over the course of stages 1 and 2, so it's not the same order as the teams were in stage 2. And it seems like there's not going to be relegations going forward. We don't know that for certain, but it seems like the league is going to go online next year. It is going to be expanded. But again, not confirmed. Maybe there will still be relegations. So having the fewest number of points could be significant, but for now, it just seems like any given team is trying to make it into the top 4 in terms of points so they can play in the NAL finals and get a little bit of extra prestige, a little bit of extra money, whatever. And for now, it seems like Astralis, Oxygen, Xset, and Dark Zero, well, certainly they're in the best positions, but it seems fairly likely for those teams to go. There is a bit of a gap between those 4 and the rest of the teams, with Beast Coast and Space Station on 26, a whole 6 points behind Xset. So while you could certainly make up 6 points, there was only, I guess 27 points available to any given team in any given stage. And while you also need to close that 6-point gap, you need to keep up with these teams, and these teams have been pretty consistent. So Astralis, Oxygen, Xset all going to both majors, and then Dark Zero going to the first major, and then just narrowly missing out on the second. So they've all been pretty consistently good. And okay, so let's just go down the line. So Astralis, and I guess I'm going to go a little bit out of order, Xset, Dark Zero, all 3 of these teams don't seem to be making roster changes. It's still possible, I suppose, but there have not even been rumors for any of these teams making changes. There's a little bit of a troll by Forest, but okay, whatever. So yeah, they're all sticking with them, and I think it makes sense. They are 4 of the top performing teams. Of course, Oxygen, the second best performing team in NAL, up to interpretation a little bit how well you want to assess the international performances. But yeah, Astralis, runner-up at Charlotte, and then didn't do very well at Berlin, but they were at both majors. And Xset at both majors and made playoffs at both majors. So only NA team to do that and make playoffs in both majors. And then Dark Zero, the winners of Charlotte, just missed out on Berlin by a little bit. And then I guess even Soniqs, they didn't make Charlotte, but they did make it to Berlin. They didn't do well at Berlin. And then Oxygen did well at Charlotte and made it to the top 4, and then they didn't make it out of groups at Berlin. So maybe that spurred their change. But this change seemed to already be happening before even the majors. So okay, let's start with Soniqs, though, the first team on this list actually making changes. Rex and Grixer Kansan seem to be sticking around. Super, this was announced before the major even happened that he was going to be leaving the playing roster, and it recently has been found out that he is going to the general manager position. That was also sort of leaked in the past, but only announced fairly recently. And then Yeti, it is rumored that he's leaving. This has not been announced. So everything in green, these players all seem to be safe, and if they're over here, they are confirmed to be joining the roster. If they're in red, they've already been dropped, and if they're in this sort of yellowish color, that means they may or may not be leaving or joining the roster, depending if they're over here or over here. So some of these are more likely than others. We'll sort of talk about it. Yeah, Yeti, this is one of the only roster changes that hasn't actually come out that it seems like it might happen, along with Geo being dropped. And then also, well, Mirage is just sort of all a toss-up at the moment. Talk about that at the end. Okay, so yeah, Yeti, not totally clear if he's leaving, but Gunner seemed to be coming in from Super, and Geo potentially coming in for Yeti. And if this roster does come together, Rex and Grixer, Kansan, Gunner, Geo, it seems like a really, really good roster. And they do have a lot of work to make up to make it into the top 4 because they only have 25 points. I think it's entirely possible, but it's a team that I think is fairly likely to make top 4, at least within the stage, and thus go to the major, maybe do well at the major. And they're all tenured players in their own right, or at least they played in NAL last stage. So these 3 remaining on the team, Geo was on TSM, Gunner was on Parabellum, and only the second stage for Gunner, but he had a very impressive rookie stage. Geo, just a very consistent player overall, been around for a really long time, has had a lot of success. Maybe last year he wasn't amazing, but he had a very good stage last stage. I think the highest rated player on TSM, maybe the second highest, but one of their top performing players, and that was from a support position. So really good looking roster. We'll see if they can actually come together as a team to do very well in their first stage as a roster. Okay, Oxygen dropping Laxing. This was already rumored before the major. Laxing went to the major, played, was the top rated player for their team at the major. I think one of even the highest rated players in the event, one of the higher rated at least. And well, now he's being dropped, and he's confirmed that he's not going to be playing for at least one stage. he will be streaming and stuff, so tune in if you're interested in that. I think he's been pretty popular whenever he has streamed. And okay, so Sweater is his replacement, coming over from Beast Coast, and I think some people think this is a really good change. Some people aren't a huge fan of it. Definitely it is a restructuring of the team. Sweater doesn't really match Laxing's roles. Laxing more on the flank watch lurker type role, and Sweater just a pure entry. So not totally clear how the team will be arranged. It looked like probably Sweater and Newer's on entry. I would imagine Sweater first entry, Newer second, and then I guess Vertical on like Sledge, Foxay on, I don't know, whatever you need, like a Maverick or an Oso or a Ying or a Flores or whatever, and then Dream on the Thermite, Ace, whatever, the Hard Breach, and then defense is a little bit less structured than that, but okay, that seems like probably what's going to be their attacking roles. And then Sweater's been pretty good on Beast Coast. Maybe he could have been even better in a better team, so we'll see. I mean, Oxygen tends to maybe not always be a top team, at least in terms of international play, but they usually make it to the events and, well, you know, go from there. So is this a change that can bring them to the grand finals or even win the grand finals? We'll have to see. That remains to be seen, but I think definitely, if nothing else, this change has a lot of potential. Everybody's favorite buzzword for roster changes. Okay, and then we talked about Xset and Dark Zero already, so we'll go to Parabellum. Gunner, this was known for a little while, and the Penguin one came out pretty recently. Gunner, yeah, it was said that he was leaving Parabellum, but again, it's not totally clear, or it's pretty clear he's going to Soniqs. It just hasn't been announced. The Penguin one, this came as sort of a surprise to an extent. I thought this would happen eventually, just with the sort of trajectory of everything. Teams just seem to be dropping their IGLs, right? And just favoring really prolific fraggers or just like the top players in any given position. And well, and preferably they are also vocal players. So just having a very vocal team overall, don't actually need a dedicated IGL. And Xset, I think they sort of have an IGL, but it's like I don't know, a co-op system or however you call it. Soniqs, yeah, dropping Super and bringing in Gunner and Geo. So a lot of coordination there, not stemming from just one player, but coming from many players. It seems like Canadian, you know, just like the IGL in Siege, but he's even said that it's a lot less about actual IGLing and more about just players noticing opportunities, calling them out, and then the team acting accordingly. So yeah, so in that sense, I think the Penguin drop's not that surprising, but I would have thought they would have given him at least one stage. This is like his team, right? He sort of led these guys, and I guess Esco is actually the longest standing member of the roster, but these two have played together for a long time. Even Kool-Aid's been here for quite a while. Blast and Gunner coming in recently, and I mean, we'll see if it works out for them. If nothing else, you know, even if depending on the whole IGL thing, you're still losing a very vocal player, and then also it's not like his stats have been especially bad, and so maybe they'll restructure Parabellum, maybe it'll work out for them. They haven't been amazing thus far, but still, as the newest team to the league, I would have liked them to have stuck with their old structure, or you know, or just change it a little bit rather than such a drastic change. We'll have to see if it works out. Doc and Asians seemingly coming in. The Doc thing was known, or well, you know, again, also not fully confirmed, but seemingly known for a while, and then the Asian thing came out recently when Penguin was actually announced to be dropped. But I guess we'll see what Parabellum does. You know, they didn't do especially well either stage, but they are still in a position where they could maybe crack into the top 4 or over the course of the whole season, but maybe even or more likely so. I guess more likely than that, they can just get top 4 in this upcoming stage. It seems like they'll have good players, but will they come together as a team? We'll see. Kool-Aid was rumored to be going into TSM, but that's now an impossibility. You have to retain 3/5 of your team. You can only make 2 roster changes between stages, and I think in the actual season, off season, so between seasons, I think you can change like the whole roster now. But okay, for now you can only make 2 changes. They already made 2. And then we have Bisco Surf / Anthony sticking around. Drip had that whole ultimatum a while back, didn't pan out for him, I guess. Sweater also being dropped. I think these are sort of the 2 faces of the team, so pretty big change up for Beast Coast. Maybe it'll work out for them, maybe it won't. They were this has been such a heartbreak team in the sense that both stages, like, they could have gone to the major, especially stage 2. If they just, I mean, beaten Mirage, right, they would have gone to the major. Stage 1, I think they needed just they needed to beat Mirage and then get like 1 more point or something. But they were very, very close. It was in their grasp both times, and they just let it slip. So tragic. And maybe they would have made the major stage 3. Maybe they would have just cleaned up a few things and it would have worked out. But Zeno, Ferda, these 2 are coming in. They are 2 of the top performers for Challenger League, just big names being thrown around that people have said deserve a chance for varying amount of times. I think Ferda's maybe been around longer than Zeno. Don't quote me on that. I'm not super well versed in Challenger League. I think it could work out, and I think it's a team that you can at least root for, with a lot of these being fairly new players / been around for a real long time. Anthony's been around for a while at this point too, but Surf's still pretty new. Zeno and Ferda brand new to the league. So if you just enjoy watching new players have a fresh start, if you want a team to support, maybe Beast Coast is the one. And I guess maybe even if you kind of want to support this team, if you didn't like Drip and Sweater for some reason, maybe this is a team to I mean, it's a team to look out for, certainly. Just with so many changes, maybe they'll be able to take advantage of other teams also making changes, but we'll have to see. Okay, TSM, they dropped Chala a little while ago. This came out around the same time Super was announced to being dropped, so one of the first changes. Chala seems to be semi-retiring. I think he made it sound like there was a possibility of his return, but I kind of doubt it. And then Geo, yeah, this one also is heavily rumored. It seems like it's almost confirmed, but there hasn't actually been an announcement, so we'll see. And then Snake was playing in Chala's position. This is another case of the roles being a little bit weird. Chala not playing the same roles as Snake, and so I guess TSM is looking to restructure themselves and maybe just become more aggressive on the whole. It seems like Merc is probably going to support, and if it is Gasher indeed coming in, I think there's a little bit of conflict who's going to be on the soft breacher, the sledge role, Achieved or Gasher. I don't know for sure, and I guess Gasher isn't even like fully confirmed. He certainly isn't playing on Aqualix anymore, where he played last stage and was one of the top performers in Challenger League, but okay, it just hasn't been announced just yet. But it looks to be Bolo, Merc, Achieved, Snake, Gasher, and not totally clear if this is actually an upgrade. I think a lot of people are really hesitant to say that these are good changes. Maybe they like Snake, they don't like Gasher, maybe they don't like Snake, whatever the case. Maybe they just really like Chala and Geo. After all, this 5-man roster, these are the reigning world champions after all, and they did have a really brutal stage 1 and almost as brutal stage 2. They got 9th place, I got 8th place. So even if they had a good showing at SI, of course, winning the thing, they just cannot perform regionally against NA teams for some reason. They're pretty good against other regions, but not NA for some reason. And I guess, I mean, to go to events, you need to do well within your region. They had to make it to SI via the open qualifier, close. I think they were invited, so the last chance qualifier, whatever the case. But so it seems like they do need to change, and maybe they just wanted to get fresh players regardless of who they were. Not to say that these are bad pickups, we'll just have to see how they actually pan out. And then we have Space Station, so Rampy, Bosco, Fultz, Hot and Cold all seemingly sticking around, and so it is that 5th position being changed once again. It was Thinking Nate, it was Skies, and it was Dexter for a little bit. They were trialing him out, and it seemed like they were going to go with Dexter, and then when a certain player became available, it seemed like they wanted to pick him up. And it sounded like Geo at first, and now I guess seemingly it's Yeti. Geo taking his spot on Soniqs, Yeti coming over here. And I think a lot of people really don't like this change because SSG just have a habit of picking up sort of recycling players, and it started with Hot and Cold, and they had a ton of success when they picked up Hot and Cold within the region. They were the absolute kings of NAL in stages 2 and 3. They were even like the best performing NA team internationally for those 2 stages, even if NA wasn't doing that well. They were definitely a letdown, but I mean, less so than other NA teams. And they had Thinking Nade, and they did whatever, and then they had Skies, and they had the same performance. And then this year rolled around with Skies, and they didn't do very well. They just missed out on the major stage 1, really poor performance stage 2, getting 9th place, and now they're making a change, and I guess it's Yeti. But again, it seems like, especially with the way the game's going in general, with NA picking up all these fresh new gunners that are really hungry, maybe Yeti will have a new lease on life. And not to say that he's been terrible. He hasn't been playing especially well lately, but maybe he will slot into SSG's system pretty well. His entry stats in particular, I think, have been pretty bad. I think a lot of that coming on defense. SSG, where they really need the boost, is on defense. They're really good at attacking, but they're really bad at defending. And also, SSG tends to be really good on the entry. So maybe in a way, they'll be able to negate that weakness, or maybe Yeti can just shore it up himself, not dying as much as the first pick on defense. We'll have to see. Maybe this will work out. Maybe it won't. I'm a little bit hesitant as a big SSG fan. I really want it to work out, and I like Yeti. He just seems like a really cool guy. But if this is actually the change they're making, I'm definitely going to have to see them play a little bit before I can actually make a fair judgment. Would Dexter have been a better choice? Not totally clear. He didn't play that well at Gamers Without Borders, but that was his first time playing against T1 teams. He was playing in another country, first time playing on LAN, I'm assuming, just all this stuff. So maybe I would have liked to have seen him receive another shot, or maybe just even another fresh player. But okay, I'm hopeful but hesitant. We'll see. And then finally, Mirage. I've heard every player except for Benji's spot has been trialed for. So at first it was Melted was benched, and Kento didn't want to play without Melted, so he wasn't going to be on the roster. But then I heard Marmalade's spot was being trialed for, and then I heard Nyx's spot was being trialed for by Dexter. And so yeah, all of these players, I even put Benji in yellow because I think it's probably likely that he's he could be on the chopping block, even though I just haven't heard about it. It seems like Nyx and Benji are the two that need to go. Nyx just being brought back on recently, but he was on the roster before, and they were never especially successful with him on the roster, except for, I guess, stage 1 of last year when they had hot and cold, but that's sort of an anomaly. Marmalade, Kento, Melted, it seems like none of them have really had their fair shake. And so Dexter trialing for Nyx's position makes sense in terms of roles. I don't know what they're going to do as far as an IGL, but seemingly you don't need an IGL anymore, so whatever. And then Slothy, former teammate of Nyx, so I don't know if it will actually be picked up if Nyx is dropped. So all the Mirage stuff has come out pretty recently, because a while ago Nyx said that they're not going to make any roster changes, so that was a lie, or something changed. Probably something changed. So we'll have to see. Yeah, Mirage, it's not totally clear. I think everything else besides Mirage is not 100% confirmed, but this stuff is all very likely, and then we'll just have to see what they do. So I don't even know what changes they need to make exactly, what would work out. I mean, maybe Marmalade, Kento, Melted, maybe one of them does need to go. It just doesn't seem like they've been given that fair of a shake. I mean, especially Kento coming on very recently. Melted, his roles have been weird, and then the whole team has had the COVID situation in the most recent stage. And then Marmalade, I mean, being a support player on a really struggling team is not an easy task. So again, if anybody gets dropped, ideally it'd be one of these two or both of them, but we'll have to see what actually happens. So all right, so that's gonna do it. That is well, the NA bloodbath, as it were, and probably I'll do a follow-up once all of the things are locked in. Maybe even if a bunch get announced around the same time but they're not all complete, maybe I'll still do coverage for that. But again, I guess it's in 6 days, I want to say. In 6 days, the window is closed, so in the next 6 days we should have all of this information locked in, and then a little, like a week and a half after that, we'll see the game start up, and that might be the last. This might actually be the last stage of offline NAL, of LAN NAL. So that is disappointing. It seems like the league's expanding, seems kind of cool, but okay, a lot of this stuff is just sort of up in the air, not confirmed. It's been sort of leaked, but as much as that actually confirms anything. So okay, that's going to do it for this video. Questions, comments, concerns, feel free to leave them below. I should have asked this at the beginning, and I asked this in the previous video, but I mean, if you're still tuned in here, let me know if you'd enjoy watching streams. I mean, I can just like talk about stuff that I talk about in videos, but I also, play some Siege, play some other games with my friends, whatever the case. If you would be interested in that, do feel free to let me know, and maybe what you'd like to see, if anything. But okay, so that's going to do it for this video, and I think I already said that, so a like and a subscription would be appreciated. I will catch you guys in the next one.